Ms. Shorter and members of the board, we do have several items for your consideration this evening or for discussion under letter C, items for board discussion. First, student meal prices for the 2022-23 school year. At this time, I will turn it over to our Director of Food Services, Ms. Liz Wellman.
Thank you, Billy. Hello, I'm Liz. I'm the Food Service Director. I am here to talk about student meal prices, as he said. First and foremost, to put a little bit of background behind it, the last lunch price increase that we had as a district was, the beginning of the 2017-2018 school year. It was a 10-cent increase across the board, so we went up to $2.85 for K through 5 lunches. It's $2.90 for Sacred Heart students, and then $2.95 for 6 through 12. Breakfast prices, on the other hand, have not seen an increase since before food service has records of. So my most recent reports are from 2008, but I have been told it's been like that forever, set at $1. Prices in the last couple of years have not increased since the 2017-18 school year for a number of reasons. Partly because of USDA waivers that have been put into place for COVID relief for our families. These waivers have allowed free meals for all students, regardless of financial status, so they have not had to fill out a free and reduced application. They have gotten free meals. It's been a blessing to our families, a blessing to our students. Unfortunately, these waivers are set to expire as of June 30th. We are still running the summer food service program, and all meals will be free throughout the summer, but once the new school year starts, we will go back to normal free and reduced price lunches, in which our families will have to apply. So I am proposing a meal price increase for the start of next year due to the end of these waivers and due to the rising prices of food, labor, fuel prices, delivery prices. I'm sure many of you see when you go to the grocery store, everything costs more. All of these items directly affect the food service department for our financial stability, to ensure that we're fiscally responsible, so it's something that we have to look at. I did a survey of local school districts on their meal prices for the for previous school year, 21-22. We received results from Forest Hills, Oak Hills, Northwest, Centerville, Ross, Little Miami, and Sycamore. And from these results, we found that Fairfield sits below average on price for both breakfast and lunch. For breakfast, we are 65 cents below average, and for lunch, we are 11 cents below average. It was also indicated during this survey that many of these districts, because of all the things that we just talked about with prices increasing, that they plan to implement a 10 to 50 cent increase going into next school year to make sure that they can cover their costs. In regards to our current food costs, so that's just raw food data. For the 21-22 school year, based on the menu that we had and current bid pricing, the average food cost for breakfast was $1.16. That's our cost. And for lunch, it was $1.68. We work with some local cooperatives that give us bid pricing, meaning we get the lowest prices possible and we get the same price throughout the whole school year. So the new bid that has already been awarded through both of our co-ops for the 22-23 school year shows an increase in cost by an average of 15% all the way up to 30%. This would mean the average breakfast price would go up to $1.33, our cost, and $1.93, our cost for lunch. It is important to note that for those costs, that does not include any labor or benefit information. So that's just raw data. I don't have with me, unfortunately, the information on what the labor cost would be per meal, but if that's something you would want in the future, please let me know. So based on this information, I'm recommending that we do raise both the breakfast and lunch prices for the upcoming school year. This will better reflect local school districts, ensure that we're on par with districts that we have a good relationship with. It'll help meet the federal requirements for price increases, as well as ensure that we're fiscally responsible. And it will help to maintain the sustainability of the food service program, as we are a fully sustainable program on our own. We do not use any general fund monies. So the proposal includes a 50-cent increase at breakfast. That would take us from $1 to $1.50, and a 25-cent increase at lunch, taking the lunch price for K through 5 to $3.10, and 6 through 12 would be $3.20. It's my goal to make this increase for the upcoming school year to make sure that we are on following along with the market, but it's my hope to only increase by 10 cents or less for future years, and only when necessary. We never want to increase our prices. We never want to put financial strain on our families, but we have to ensure that we can keep our program running. Any questions at all?
Questions? Comments?
You mentioned the other school districts. I didn't hear Lakota or Hamilton. Is that data unavailable?
So Lakota didn't share with us, and Hamilton is actually part of the community eligibility provision, meaning they are over 50% free and reduced, so they have free meals for everyone, no matter what. We unfortunately are only about 33% right now. Yeah.
And then the numbers that you have, you don't have to go into great detail, but the 50 cents on the breakfast versus the quarter, how did you come up with that?
So because it's been so long for breakfast and we've seen such an increase in price, the 50 cents really is what I look at as us covering the cost. So even with that 50-cent increase, that really won't cover what our costs will be for the raw food data and for the labor. But I don't want to increase by 75 cents. I don't want to get to that point. I'd rather start small and move up if we need to and see how the market fluctuates to better serve our families.
And maybe I should know this, but if they apply the students, the families for free or reduced lunch, does that include the breakfast?
Yes, yes. So it's 185% of the federal, low-income rate. So they have actually changed guidelines a bit, and we keep seeing all these new waivers come out that may change things. But as of right now, they are keeping the free program, the reduced program, and the denied program. The reduced program allows 30-cent breakfast to those families and 40-cent lunches to those families.
Well, thank you. Ms. Wellman.
Liz, can you just mention how families would apply for the free or reduced lunch? Where do they get that information?
Sure. We do a new application every year as mandated by the USDA. I will put that actually as of July 1st is when it goes live for the next school year. It is active on the website as of that day. We will share hard copies with all of our schools, so it will be in the offices of every building. And families can also apply through payschoolcentral.com. It's an online application. All they need is a username and password, and they can fill out everything there.
Is that, I'm sorry, is that multilingual as well?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes, through the online program. Right now, I only have the free and reduced online or hard copy application in Spanish and English, but I've been working on trying to get it translated into other languages as well.
But it's available electronically through
Yes.
the Ohio Park?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Mrs. Wellman, I do have a question for you, and it's probably been answered, but I'm just curious, for our Title I schools, is there a possibility of grants that would basically declare that that entire Title I school is available or has free and reduced lunch available to them because of their designation, since we do have some Title I schools?
So that's a question that is kind of a difficult answer. So there's different classifications of free and reduced students. So we have some students that are categorically eligible, meaning they are directly certified through any like SNAP program. So if they receive any government funding, then they will automatically be on the free and reduced program. That percentage of our students is what signifies us as either a community eligibility provision or not. So it's really not up to us. It says many families that designate that they are part of a government-funded program. I don't know how Title I ticks into that. That's just what I know about at least the food service side of things.
I mention it because I thought with Title I, that was a designation for schools that had a certain amount of poverty that was at like a 50% level. So as in the example with Hamilton, they have a whole community that's designated. And I'm just wondering if, if you have sections, if you have sectors, if you have populations where you do have the Title I schools because you have more poverty in that area. Is that something that could apply to us? Is that something that's happened in other districts? Or, is there any precedent for it? Because I understand that we have to increase costs, definitely. I understand it, but I am concerned that there are going to be some families that feel a certain amount of reticence in applying.
Yep.
And it would be great if they were just automatically covered, so to speak.
I will say that is the worst part of all of these waivers going away. Is it allowed so many families the ability to not have to share their financial information or show, there's embarrassment behind it, and it should never be something that someone's embarrassed about, but it's understandable. I will look into it. I don't know the right answer for that. I know we can go individually from building to building, so a few of our schools have higher free and reduced percentages than others. I keep track of it pretty closely, but I'll see what I can find and give you what information I can.
Okay, thank you so much. Any more questions?
Ms. Schulter, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that is definitely worth looking into, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then going back to the announcing, or how do we let folks know that, families know that, what's the site again, or there was a state site or something?
Yep, so you can go directly to the Fairfield City Schools website, and there's a link for payschoolcentral.com.
Payschoolcentral.com.
That's where pretty much all fees are paid. They can do all financial information there. They can add money to students' meal accounts, everything. We do actually, as a food service program, have our own social media site as well that we try and recommend families to follow. That has all information about the need to fill out free and reduced applications and how it's going to be so important next year. It'll have all information about how to fill out applications and everything like that as well.
I know the school district does a great job with announcing the orientations and the back-to-school bash. Is there any way to really highlight the food portion, Billy?
So, yes, just on a side note, I've been waiting till the end. We've been having internal discussions about this for quite some time, anticipating that the free lunches for all would go away. So I even have some reminders on my calendar about, I don't know if they're in July or when they are, but hey, we need to talk about how we are going to get this information out, because a lot of our families just may not know. Sometimes they may wait until the very last minute. They may wait until school starts, but then you have a couple days where they're uncertain about what's going on. So it is our intention to really go above and beyond for advertising this for our families. I also, just on a side note, I know Liz talked about 33%. Well, in the past, we've been as high as 43%.
Right.
And the reason, it'll be interesting to see what the percentage is now that folks have to fill out the paperwork in order to get that. I think we will see it. I would be surprised if it's below 43%. I'm anticipating it will be higher, because it's been a while. And but we are going to be very intentional about promoting that and getting that information out to our families.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, like you said, whether it's pride, humility, embarrassment, whatever it is, it can stop the kids from eating, and that's unfortunate. So
That's the last thing we want to do. We want to feed the
absolutely,
kids.
yeah. Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Smith, for that, and thank you, Ms. Wallman. That's a great job.
Any other questions? Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next item for board discussion is regarding a board policy, CCA, the organizational chart. Really just one minor change I am proposing this evening is changing the Director of Human Resources, moving that to just below the superintendent. Several years ago, when the Director of Human Resources was hired, we decided to have that individual report to the assistant superintendent, since that particular individual had performed most of the duties associated with that new position. The position, Director of HR, has evolved over the years. It's currently the only position besides Mrs. Lane's on the district leadership team that doesn't report to the superintendent. So even though those two individuals, Director of HR and Assistant Superintendent, will continue to work very closely, just from an organizational standpoint, I think it's perfect timing to make that change so that that position is more consistent with the other leadership positions at the district level. So, be happy to answer any questions that you have about that. Okay. And the last item for board discussion, early literacy training coach for dyslexia law. I'm covering this item this evening on behalf of Mrs. Aug, since she couldn't be here this evening. This is a new position that we need to create to help meet the requirements of Ohio's new dyslexia law. One part of the law requires K through 3 content area teachers and intervention specialists in grades K through 12 to be trained in literacy strategies. Districts have 3 to 4 years to complete that process, but our district would like to get started this particular year. The law also requires us to have at least one teacher who has gone through a certification process related to those literacy strategies. It is important to note the new position will be created using federal grant monies. The teacher in this role will be a reading center teacher 3 days a week and a trainer/coach the other 2 days. So again, although it won't require the use of general funds, still want to make you aware of this change as we work to meet the requirements of the dyslexia law. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. I may not be able to. I'm kind of the messenger on this one. I haven't been directly involved in all the conversations behind the scenes, but if you have any, and I don't know the answer, certainly could get those for you.
Mr. Smith, is the grant, how long is that good for?
I believe it's part of either the ESSER or the Title I. We're waiting for our allocations for next year for Title I to see if there's enough funding there, because it would fit in those guidelines, but ESSER, I believe ESSER money is also a possibility.
Okay. Good answer, Mr. Smith.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mrs. Lane. No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Any other questions?
No, that was the
Okay.
question I had.
All right.